Let me ask you something. Have you ever laid in bed at 2 a.m., eyes wide open, your mind running in circles? Replaying conversations, rethinking decisions, rewriting the past and rehearsing the future again and again? You feel paralyzed, like you're drowning in thoughts, but no lifeline ever shows up. That is overthinking. And it's not just some quirky habit. It's a mental trap. A self-made cage that convinces you the more you think, the safer you'll be. But in reality, it's the reason you're anxious. It's the reason you feel stuck. It's the reason you talk yourself out of the life you could be living. I say this not as some guru, but as someone who's lived that quiet torment, who's lost years obsessing over every detail, every outcome, every what if. But here's what finally snapped me out of it. The brutal honesty of Stoic philosophy. No fluff, no therapy talk. Just timeless, hard-hitting truths that help me silence the noise and finally take control. So if you're tired of being trapped in your own head, if you're ready to stop thinking your life away, then this is for you. Because what I'm about to share might sting, but it just might save you too. These are the 7 Stoic lessons that broke my overthinking and rebuilt my mind. Lesson 1, action over analysis. Do more. Think less. Let me take you back. I was in my mid-20s, sitting at a cluttered desk in a tiny apartment, buzzing with ideas. I had this business concept I believed in with every fiber of my being. I told myself, this could be the one. The thing that changes everything. And what did I do? I planned, and researched, and planned some more. I built elaborate spreadsheets, read every business book I could find, imagined every possible failure, every legal risk, market shift, or bad review I might face. And then, I did nothing. I waited. I hesitated. And while I was stuck in analysis mode, guess what? Someone else launched something similar. The market shifted, and I missed the boat entirely. That dream? Gone. Not because it was bad, but because I was too afraid to act. Too caught up in needing everything to be perfect before I made a move. That was the day I realized something brutal. Overthinking doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. The Stoics understood this long before there were TED Talks and productivity hacks. Seneca warned, while we are postponing, life speeds by. He wasn't talking about procrastination in the lazy sense. He meant the kind of mental postponing we do when we're afraid. When we convince ourselves that thinking more will make us feel safe enough to act. But here's the truth. No amount of thinking can replace doing. And no amount of planning will ever eliminate risk. Let me ask you this. Have you ever thought about starting something? Writing that book, changing careers, leaving a toxic relationship, moving to a new city, starting therapy. You probably made lists, weighed the pros and cons, waited for a sign. But the days passed, then weeks, then months, and somehow you're still exactly where you started. That's the disease of overthinking. It gives you the illusion of control while quietly stealing your time. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic icon, wrote in his journals, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That line changed my life. I used to believe obstacles were a reason to wait. Now I understand, they are the invitation. You don't need certainty. You don't need confidence. You need to move. Because action does something magical. It breaks the spell. It builds momentum. And momentum builds clarity. You're not meant to figure it all out before you begin. You're meant to learn as you go. Look, thinking isn't bad. Strategizing isn't evil. But thinking has a limit. At some point, it turns into fear wearing a mask. You don't need more time to think. You need courage to start. Do the thing badly if you must. Write the messy first page. Make the awkward call. Post the cringe video. Go to the gym for 5 minutes. You'll never regret moving forward, but you will regret standing still. Let's be clear. I'm not saying you need to quit your job tomorrow or throw caution to the wind. I'm saying, stop confusing hesitation for wisdom. Stop worshiping perfect conditions. Conditions will never be perfect. Life doesn't hand out readiness certificates. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, said it plainly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Do what you have to do. Not when it's easy. Not when it's clear. But now. Here's what I do now when I feel the spiral of overthinking creep in. I pause, take a breath, and ask one simple question. What's the smallest possible action I can take right now? Not the best action. Not the guaranteed action. The smallest one. Because action, any action, breaks the mental traffic jam. Let me tell you what action looks like in real life. It looks like applying for a job even if you don't feel qualified enough. It looks like sending the text, making the apology, starting the conversation. It looks like showing up to the gym even if you only walk for 10 minutes. It looks like starting before you're confident. You don't become confident and then act. You act and confidence grows from the act. A Stoic doesn't wait for permission. A Stoic doesn't overanalyze their fate. A Stoic moves because life is short, and overthinking is how we waste it. A deep message to take away. Overthinking will convince you that safety comes from thinking things through. But Stoicism teaches us, safety comes from the strength of action. There is no perfect time. There is no flawless plan. There's only now and what you choose to do with it. Stop worshiping thought. Start respecting action. Because the people who change their lives aren't the ones who think the most. They're the ones who dare to begin. So what will you do today? Not someday. Not when you feel ready. Today. Lesson 2, you're not that special, and that's a gift. Let's get uncomfortable for a second. You walk into a room and you feel like everyone's watching you. You post something online and you worry what they'll think. You hesitate to speak your truth because what if they laugh? What if they judge you? That's the illusion. We walk around like the world is a stage, and we're the lead actor in everyone's story. But here's the brutal, liberating truth. You're not that special. And before you get offended, listen. That's not an insult. It's freedom. I used to live like I was under a microscope. Every decision I made, every word I spoke, felt like it had to be calculated, curated, controlled. I was terrified of embarrassment, of looking foolish, of being seen messing up. So I overanalyzed every social interaction. I avoided risks that might make me look dumb. And I played small just to stay safe. But one day I hit a wall. I crashed. And no one noticed. No one called. No one asked if I was okay. Because the truth is they were all too busy, just like I was. They were wrapped up in their own lives, their own insecurities, their own fears. And in that moment it finally hit me. Most people aren't thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. The Stoics understood this long before social media ever existed. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, and a man who literally had the whole world watching, wrote in his private journal, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Let that sink in. Even a Roman emperor wrestled with the fear of judgment. Even he had to remind himself, what other people think of you is none of your business. When you stop believing you're the center of everyone else's attention, you're free to take action. You're free to make mistakes. You're free to live. Because the fear of judgment? That's the fuel of overthinking. You overthink what you said, what you wore, what you did or didn't do, because you believe the world is watching. But it's not. You're one person, in a world of 8 billion. And that's not a reason to shrink. That's a reason to breathe. Think about it. How often do you remember someone else's awkward moment? How often do you sit around judging someone for trying something new and falling short? Almost never. Because you're too busy navigating your own chaos. And guess what? So is everyone else. This realization is a superpower. It means you can try and fail and get back up without shame. It means you can pursue your dreams, not because people are watching, but because they aren't. It means you can live for you. That doesn't mean being selfish. That doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop needing their approval to do what you know in your gut is right. I remember once, I wanted to start a podcast, but I hesitated for months. What if I sound stupid? What if no one listens? What if people judge me for trying? But then I realized, they already forgot about the last thing I did. They weren't keeping score. So I launched. Was it amazing? Not at first. Did I cringe listening to my early episodes? Of course. But it didn't matter. Because I was finally free. free from needing every move to be applauded, free from treating other people's opinions like a verdict on my worth. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That's Stoicism in action. It's not just about enduring pain or mastering emotions. It's about detaching your identity from what others think. Because as long as you live to impress people, you'll overthink every move. But when you live to express who you truly are, you'll act with clarity and courage. Here's the truth. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be doubted. You'll be ignored. You'll be laughed at. And none of that matters. Because greatness doesn't grow in the spotlight. It grows in the shadows of discipline, trial, and quiet resilience. So what does this look like practically? It means raising your hand even if you're not 100% sure you're right. It means pressing publish on your video, your blog, your art, knowing it might flop. It means starting messy, starting scared, starting anyway. You don't need a crowd's approval. You need your own respect. A deep message to take away. The idea that you're the center of everyone's attention? That's the root of insecurity. And it's a lie. When you realize most people aren't thinking about you, you're free to act boldly. You're free to fail forward. You're free to live without fear. Because here's the truth. You will be judged no matter what you do. You'll be judged for playing it safe. You'll be judged for taking risks. You'll be judged for staying quiet. You'll be judged for speaking out. So you might as well do what matters to you. Let go of needing to be special. Let go of needing to be seen. Let go of needing to be right. And in that letting go, you'll find something better than perfection. You'll find freedom. Lesson 3. Comparison is the thief of joy. Focus on your path, not theirs. Let me be real with you. There was a time in my life when I could barely scroll through social media without feeling like a failure. Someone else just got promoted. Someone else bought a new house. Someone else traveled to a place I couldn't afford. And there I was, sitting in my small apartment wearing the same hoodie I'd worn for 3 days straight, wondering, where did I go wrong? I wasn't unhappy because I had nothing. I was unhappy because I believed I wasn't keeping up. That's the silent poison of comparison. The Stoics warned us about it long before Instagram ever existed. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. But when you're constantly bombarded with someone else's highlight reel, your wants start multiplying fast. Suddenly, your perfectly fine life starts feeling like a losing game. And without realizing it, you're not just comparing lifestyles. You're comparing identities. And that's where the rot begins. You start thinking, why is their relationship better than mine? Why is their business more successful? Why do they look so much happier than me? But what you're really asking is, why am I not enough? Let that sink in. Comparison doesn't just steal joy. It breeds resentment. It kills gratitude. And it makes you question your own worth. The more you compare, the more you disconnect from your own path. And soon you're not walking toward your dreams, you're just chasing someone else's shadow. I remember a phase where I tried to copy what everyone else was doing. They were making money doing X, so I did X. They were working out a certain way, so I followed that routine. They were branding themselves a certain way online, so I adjusted mine. And for a while it felt like I was finally catching up. No, I burned out. Art. Because none of it was me. I was wearing someone else's shoes, walking someone else's path, living someone else's version of success. And it never felt right because it wasn't mine to begin with. Marcus Aurelius wrote, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. Read that again. Sanity, peace, joy. They don't come from outpacing others. They come from aligning with your own values. Here's the truth no one likes to admit. Someone will always have more than you. More money, more beauty, more followers, more attention. But someone will always have less too. So if your happiness depends on being ahead, you'll spend your whole life in a race you can't win. But if your happiness depends on being aligned with who you are and what matters to you, you'll never lose. Comparison is a trap because it focuses your energy outward. And Stoicism teaches the opposite. The Stoics say, look inward, focus on what you control. Define your own success, not by how you measure up to others, but by how well you live your values. Here's what I started doing that changed everything. I unfollowed accounts that made me feel inferior. Not because they were bad, just because I wasn't ready to see them. I replaced comparison with curiosity. Instead of asking, why them? I asked, what can I learn from them without copying them? I measured progress against my own past, not someone else's present. I became obsessed with improving me, not outshining them. And slowly I noticed something amazing. I started feeling joy again. Real, quiet, genuine joy. Not from proving anything, but from simply being true to my path. I could celebrate other people's wins because I wasn't threatened by them anymore. Their success didn't mean I was failing. It just meant they were on their own journey, and I was on mine. A deep message to take away. Comparison is the thief of joy because it shifts your gaze from what you have to what you lack. It turns someone else's path into your prison. But the truth is, you don't need to run their race. You need to walk your path. Your timeline is not broken. Your dreams are not small. Your pace is not wrong. You were never meant to live someone else's life. You were meant to live yours. Fully. Authentically. Freely. So the next time you catch yourself comparing, pause. Close the app. Turn off the noise. And ask yourself, what matters to me? What am I building? What does success mean on my terms? Because you'll never find peace looking sideways. You'll find it by looking forward, walking boldly, and staying loyal to your journey. Lesson 4. Perfection is a myth. Embrace your flaws. You're not broken. You're human. Let's get something straight. Perfection is not a goal. It's a ghost. You chase it. You stretch for it. You try to mold yourself into some flawless version of who you think you should be. But the closer you get, the more it slips away. Because it's not real. It never was. For years, I lived like a prisoner to perfection. I wouldn't speak up in meetings unless I was sure my idea was brilliant. I would rewrite an email 10 times before hitting send. I'd stare at creative projects for hours, paralyzed, not because I had nothing to say, but because I thought it had to be perfect before the world saw it. And in that pursuit of flawlessness, I wasted time. I missed opportunities. And worst of all, I lost parts of myself. The Stoics never promised perfection. In fact, they warned against it. Seneca wrote, "No man was ever wise by chance. Wisdom doesn't come from being flawless. It comes from stumbling, failing, learning, getting back up. The cracks in you? That's where the light gets in. So why are we so obsessed with being perfect? Because we think it will make us lovable. We think it'll protect us from judgment. We think that if we never mess up, never show weakness, we'll finally be enough. But let me ask you, has perfection ever brought you peace? Has it ever made you feel truly seen? Or has it just made you more anxious, more self-critical, more afraid to be real? I used to think being flawless was the goal. Now I know being honest is, because perfection disconnects, but vulnerability connects. When you admit you don't have it all figured out, people don't walk away. They lean in. They see themselves in you. And that's where real relationships begin. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That line used to sting. Now it liberates me, because I'd rather be honest and growing than polished and stuck. Here's something practical I started doing. Instead of asking, "How do I make this perfect?" I ask, "How do I make this real?" I started sharing work before I felt ready, having hard conversations without a script, taking messy action, being okay with being seen mid-process. And you know what happened? People responded. Not to the perfection, but to the humanity. Look around. The art that moves you? It's not flawless. The stories that stick with you? They're full of broken characters. The leaders you admire most? They're not perfect, they're real. We don't fall in love with people because they're perfect. We fall in love with the way they show up, flawed, brave, authentic. So why not give yourself that same grace? Perfectionism is fear in disguise. It says, don't try unless you're the best. Don't speak unless you're sure. Don't act unless it's guaranteed to succeed. But Stoicism says the opposite. It says, try, speak. Even when it's hard. Even when it's messy. even when you're afraid. Let me be clear. Embracing your flaws doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you grow without shame. It means you allow yourself to be a work in progress, without beating yourself up along the way. Here's what changes when you drop the perfection act. You take more risks, because you're not waiting for perfect conditions. You build real confidence, not from being flawless, but from seeing that you can survive mistakes. You deepen your relationships, because people feel safe around someone who's honest about their imperfections. You get things done. Perfectionists procrastinate. Realists ship. And most importantly, you become more kind to yourself. Because when you stop demanding perfection, you stop punishing yourself for being human. A deep message to take away. Perfection is a myth, a lie we've been sold. And the cost is authenticity, joy, growth. But when you embrace your flaws, you give yourself permission to be whole. Not polished, not filtered, just real. And that's enough. You are not a product to be optimized. You're a human being to be experienced. So the next time you catch yourself holding back, waiting for the perfect moment, ask yourself, what would I do right now if I believed I was already enough? Then do that. Start messy. Speak your truth. Own your flaws. Because the world doesn't need another perfect person. It needs you. Fully human. Beautifully imperfect. Fearlessly real. Lesson 5. Your emotions lie. Stop trusting them blindly. Feelings aren't facts. They're messengers, not masters. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been so angry you couldn't see straight? So anxious your hands shook? So heartbroken you convinced yourself you'd never be okay again? That's the power of emotion. Raw, loud, consuming. And if you're not careful, it'll lead your entire life. I used to believe that if I felt something strongly, it must be true. If I felt anxious, something bad must be about to happen. If I felt hurt, someone must have meant to hurt me. If I felt insecure, I must not be good enough. But here's the hard truth I learned, one I wish I had learned sooner. Your emotions lie to you. All the time. Not because they're evil, but because they're not always accurate. They're survival tools, not truth tellers. They're signals, but they are not facts. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That includes your emotional mind. He wasn't saying don't feel. He was saying don't obey blindly, because feelings are temporary. But the decisions they push you to make, those can leave permanent scars. Let me give you an example. There was a time when a close friend didn't text me back for days. And immediately my mind spiraled. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? Maybe they don't value our friendship. My chest tightened. I couldn't focus. I even drafted a long emotional message that I thankfully never sent. And then, a week later they called. Their mom had been hospitalized. They were dealing with chaos I never knew about. All that worry. All that emotional pain. Based on a story my feelings invented. And that story? Completely false. How often do we do that? How often do we act on a gut feeling, only to regret it once the fog clears? That's why the Stoics practiced emotional discipline, not to suppress emotion, but to master their response to it. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things." Your emotions don't come from what happens. They come from how you interpret what happens. And interpretation can be flawed, biased, overreactive, especially when fear, shame, or anger are in the driver's seat. Now, I'm not saying ignore your emotions. They're important. They're clues, messengers, signals that something inside you needs attention. But they are not commands. You don't have to obey them. You can feel sadness and still show up. You can feel fear and still take the leap. You can feel anger and still choose not to lash out. That's what the Stoics called self-governance. It's not about denying emotions. It's about guiding them with reason. Here's a simple practice I use. When I feel overwhelmed by an emotion, I pause and ask, what story is this feeling trying to tell me? Is it true? Can I prove it? Sometimes the answer is yes. Most of the time, it's not. And just asking that slows me down enough to respond instead of react. Think about how different your life could be if you paused before every emotional reaction, before sending that angry text, before quitting something out of fear, before spiraling into self-doubt. That pause? That's the birthplace of freedom. The Stoics believed our greatest power wasn't control over others. It was control over ourselves. Control over how we respond to the storm, inside and out. And emotional mastery is the core of that. Here's what emotional maturity looks like. Recognizing your feelings without letting them rule you. Questioning the stories your mind creates. Choosing action based on your values, not your impulses. Letting go of what you can't control and anchoring yourself in what you can. That's what separates reaction from response, and weakness from wisdom. A deep message to take away. Emotions are powerful, but power without direction is dangerous. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are only at risk when you let those feelings define your reality. Let emotion knock on the door, but let reason answer. Because the truth is, you are not your feelings. You are the one who notices them and chooses what to do next. So the next time you're consumed by fear, anger, or insecurity, pause. Is this real or just loud? Is this feeling here to guide me or control me? You don't have to react. You can breathe, reflect, and respond with strength. That's not being cold. That's being in command. And that's what emotional freedom really looks like. Lesson 6. Detach from outcomes. Focus on effort, not results. You control the input, not the outcome. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I poured everything I had into a big project. Hours, late nights, sacrifices. It was personal. I believed in it. I hit publish and waited and waited. Crickets. Barely anyone noticed. No applause. No fireworks. No life-changing result. And I was crushed. Not because the work wasn't meaningful, but because I tied my worth to the response. That's the trap. You give your best effort, but when the outcome doesn't match your expectation, you spiral. You question your value. You doubt your decisions. You start asking, what's the point of trying if it doesn't lead to what I want? And that's when the Stoic truth comes in sharp and clear. Do your duty, then let go. Epictetus said, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Your power lies in your effort. The outcome? That belongs to the world. You can control how you show up, how much you prepare, how honest your work is, how consistent your actions are. But you can't control who likes it, who notices, what goes viral, or what gets ignored. This idea changed everything for me. Detachment is not giving up. It's letting go of what you never controlled. And ironically, the moment I stopped obsessing over results, my results improved. Because I wasn't chasing validation anymore. I was anchored in integrity. The Stoics didn't judge success by applause. They judged it by alignment. Did you act with virtue? Did you do the right thing, regardless of outcome? If yes, then you've already won. Let's talk about this practically. When you focus on outcomes, you become fragile. Because your peace depends on results you can't control. But when you focus on effort, you become resilient. You bounce back faster. You stop riding the emotional roller coaster of external success and failure. You begin to build something deeper, inner stability. Think about the most consistent, grounded people you know. Are they the ones constantly chasing trophies? Or are they the ones quietly showing up? Every day, regardless of who's watching? That's the Stoic way. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it's unshakable. Marcus Aurelius said, the fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good. He didn't say, the fruit of life is being the best, the richest, or the most praised. He said it's how you live. That means writing even if no one reads yet, creating even if no one claps yet, giving your best even if no one thanks you. Because the reward isn't in the result. The reward is in becoming the kind of person who gives their best, no matter what. Now, this doesn't mean you stop setting goals. Goals give direction. They're important. But your happiness, your self-respect, your peace, they can't be built on the shaky ground of outcome. Here's what focusing on effort over outcomes gives you. Clarity. You stop chasing validation and start asking, what's the right thing to do? Consistency. When you're not addicted to dopamine from results, you can stay disciplined, even when things feel slow. Freedom. You stop second-guessing yourself every time something doesn't land. You know your actions matter, even if the results don't show up yet. Fulfillment. There's a deep peace that comes from knowing, I did what I could, and that's enough. Here's a question I ask myself every week. If no one ever saw the result, would I still do the work? If the answer is yes, then I'm aligned. If the answer is no, then I've made the outcome more important than the process. And that always leads to burnout. The Stoics teach us this over and over. You don't control the outcome of your job interview, but you can prepare like hell. You don't control whether they love you back, but you can love with honesty and integrity. You don't control the market, but you can build something valuable anyway. A deep message to take away. Outcomes are seductive. They promise glory, certainty, approval, but they're never guaranteed. Effort, on the other hand, effort is always within reach, always yours to give, and that's where freedom lives. So the next time you feel discouraged by slow progress, or feel like quitting because no one's clapping, pause and ask yourself, did I give my best? Was I true to my values? Am I still standing in integrity? If the answer is yes, then you've already succeeded. Let the rest unfold how it must. That's Stoic strength. That's real power. Lesson 7. The present moment is all you have. Live in the now. If it's not happening now, it's not real. Let me tell you the truth that took me years, and a lot of anxiety, to fully understand. Life doesn't happen in the past. Life doesn't happen in the future. Life only happens right now. But most of us? We live everywhere but here. We replay old mistakes like they're movies on a loop. We obsess about what could go wrong tomorrow. We plan, predict, panic, and in doing so, we miss the only thing that actually exists. This moment. There was a time when I lived like a mental time traveler. One foot stuck in regret, asking, what if I'd done it differently? The other foot stuck in fear, asking, what if everything goes wrong? And my body? Stuck in the present, trapped between two invisible walls. I wasn't living. I was surviving a life that wasn't even happening yet. Marcus Aurelius, yes, the Emperor of Rome, wrote, confine yourself to the present. That line sounds simple, but it's radical, because when you actually do it, when you bring your awareness to this breath, this heartbeat, this moment, everything changes. The noise quiets, the fog lifts, and for the first time, you see clearly. The Stoics weren't just philosophers. They were practical warriors of the mind. They knew we can't control the past. They knew we can't predict the future. So what do? We anchor ourselves in now, because now is the only place we have power. Let me put it another way. You can't change the argument from yesterday, but you can apologize now. You can't guarantee tomorrow's success, but you can do the work today. You can't fix what happened 5 years ago, but you can make peace with it, in this moment. The more I practiced being present, the more I realized how much life I'd been missing. The small, beautiful things. The warmth of coffee in my hands. The way a friend laughs mid-sentence. The feeling of sunlight through the window. None of it requires achievement. None of it asks for permission. But all of it can only be felt now. Here's what I noticed about my overthinking. It always lived somewhere else. Anxiety? That lives in the future. Regret? That lives in the past. Peace? That lives in presence. The Stoics didn't just write about this, they trained for it. Meditation, reflection, self-awareness. They weren't escaping life. They were stepping into it fully. So how do we start living in the now? Here are some simple things that worked for me. Breath as anchor. When I'm spiraling mentally, I close my eyes and take one slow, intentional breath. I remind myself, I'm not in the past. I'm not in the future. I'm here. Name what you see. I literally speak out loud what's around me. The sky is blue. The light is soft. I'm sitting in a chair. I'm safe. Sounds silly, but it grounds me. Let go of time pressure. Not everything needs to be figured out today. Some things will take time, and presence helps you accept that. Living in the present doesn't mean you stop caring about your future. It means you stop obsessing over things you can't control yet. And ironically, the more present you are, the better you shape your future. Because you're actually paying attention to the moment that builds it. Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Gratitude lives in the now, not in what might be, not in what used to be. Right here, right now. A deep message to take away. The present moment is not just where life happens. It's where healing begins. It's where clarity lives. It's where peace waits patiently for you to notice it. If you're constantly living in the next problem, you'll miss the beauty that's already here. If you're always reliving the last failure, you'll never taste the possibility of this new breath. So pause. Right now. Feel your feet on the floor. Listen to the silence between these words. Take a deep breath and let it go slowly. That is life. Not what happened last year. Not what might happen next month. This life. And if you keep waiting to figure it all out before you fully show up, you'll miss it. The Stoics didn't teach us to escape our emotions. They taught us to engage with reality, deeply, honestly, fully. And reality only ever exists in the present. So the next time your mind drifts, bring it back. Not with shame, not with guilt, but with love. This moment is not perfect, but it's enough, and it's yours. If this resonates with you, stay with me, because now we move to the final, most important part of this journey. The conclusion: how to build a life beyond overthinking. You are not your thoughts. You are what you choose to do with them. So here we are. 7 lessons. 7 hard truths. Not soft, not sugar-coated, but real. We've talked about action over analysis, about letting go of outcomes, about seeing through the lies your emotions tell, about the myth of perfection, the trap of comparison, the freedom of realizing you're not the center of the universe, and the power of the present moment. Each one of these isn't just an idea. It's a tool, a map, a way out of the mental prison that overthinking builds, brick by brick. But here's what matters most. These lessons mean nothing if you don't live them. And I know what you're thinking. But what if I fall back into old patterns? You will. I do too. That's the nature of being human. But falling isn't failing. The Stoics never said you had to be perfect. They only asked you to practice. To show up every day with clarity, humility, and courage. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while facing betrayal, plague, and war, still took the time each morning to remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Not fame, not comfort, not ease, strength. And you've had it all along. You just forgot. Overthinking steals that strength by keeping you stuck in what you can't control. It drowns you in what-ifs. It tells you you're not ready, not good enough, not smart enough, not safe enough. But here's the truth. You don't need certainty to act. You need courage. And courage doesn't mean the fear goes away. It means you act anyway. So what now? You've heard the lessons. You felt them. Now it's time to move. Not tomorrow. Not when it's comfortable. No. Start small. Write the first sentence. Send the message. Have the conversation. Make the decision that's been sitting in the back of your mind for far too long. Let it be imperfect. Let it be messy. But let it be yours. Because you'll never think your way into a meaningful life. You'll only live your way into it, one courageous act at a time. And every time you do, you prove to yourself that you are more than your fears, more than your doubts, more than the voice in your head that says, not yet. A final message to take with you. You are not powerless. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are in the exact moment that life begins again, if you choose to step into it. The Stoics taught that we are not disturbed by events, but by our judgment of those events. Which means this: if you can change your mind, you can change your life. Right now, you have everything you need. You have your breath. You have your awareness. You have your will. That's where it starts. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one lesson from this video. Apply it today. Tell no one if you don't want to. Just do it. Take action. Detach from the outcome. Be present in the process, and let that single choice be the seed of your transformation. Because you don't need a revolution. You just need a beginning. If this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who's trapped in their own thoughts, who needs a way out. Leave a comment below. What's one thing you'll stop overthinking, starting today? And most importantly, keep showing up for yourself, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because peace isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you build, one choice, one breath, one bold step at a time. So live fully, live wisely, and remember, the Stoic path isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming unbreakable.